Hello and welcome to another episode of Honest to a Malt with myself, now back on the big bike because it's summer, Duncan, aka Donuts. Smoke 'em slow Mike. It's barbecue season and he is having a whale of a time. You can find Mike on at Whiskey Wings. And this week we've got a special guest as happy with a spade as she is with a Glencairn. If she was an evil wizard, or is it warlock, on Harry Potter, she would be Voldemort, not Voldemort, because she is Claire Vokins, not Claire Vokins. Welcome, Claire.
Now that's an introduction. I'm going to have to record that. Definitely.
We got that covered. Don't worry about it.
Like, seriously.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Would you like to give yourself a wee bit of an introduction then for our listeners? We know obviously that you're a writer, blogger, also into you do horticulture as well. Sometimes you're part-time, or you do brand ambassador work as well. But it'd be nice if you just give a bit of an introduction for our listeners, a bit about yourself. Okay,
well, you've practically covered it all there. So just to repeat what you've said. So I'm Claire Vokins. I'm lucky enough to work freelance in two industries, horticulture and in whiskey. And in both, I do the practical side, either working with plants or working with whiskey. And I do writing and coaching and mentoring and basically anything that will pay my wages, which would be quite nice. Thanks very much.
I forgot that you'd done coaching and mentoring as well. That's pretty cool.
For those who just need a little bit extra help.
Yeah. What is the name of the episode today, Mike?
We are episode 64, and the episode is Your Arse is Grass with Claire Vokins.
Dearie me.
Yeah.
All right, so Claire, what's been in your glass and what's been up your arse this last week?
Well, actually, within this last week, I've drunk more alcohol than I probably have done in the last 6 months. But at the moment, I am drinking the new Glasgow 7070 Tokai cask finish batch 2.
It's very topical.
Which I really want to drink, but we have to save it for something coming up.
Yeah, I have to save it for next week.
It's very
so it'd be very interesting to hear your thoughts on it then.
It's good. Yeah, it's nice and chewy. It's very nice and chewy.
And has anything been annoying you in this last week?
Oh, everything annoys me all the time.
I was going to say.
I mean, we were a bit worried
What's
about this.
been annoying you the most?
But specifically, actually no, stuff's really, the most annoying thing I'm getting at the moment is that blooming owl from Duolingo reminding me that I haven't been practicing enough.
What are you trying to what language are you trying to do?
Arabic.
No
Arabic.
way.
Yeah, it's something I've always wanted to learn, and weirdly it helps open up other learning pathways, which helps me learn other stuff easier. So yeah, there's a science behind learning something.
I really wish I knew the Arabic word for doors, just to cut in across.
That's babe. That's one of the words. Babe. It's a word that we've learned actually quite early on. So I can talk about babe montaz, which means an amazing door.
It's like a northerner trying to say babe.
Babe. So yeah, so the owls annoying me, and a little bit like Mike, but not so bad. I buggered my back last Wednesday, which has annoyed me because I haven't been able to do my daily gardening job because of that.
I nearly said real job then, but
I
don't know. What do you think is your real job?
Yeah,
are
that's
we
a great
whiskey
question.
or are we plants?
I find it really difficult myself because up to probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said horticulture is my real job because that's where most of my income would come from. But I've worked it out that this year, I would say between 40 and 50% of my income comes from whiskey. So I don't have a full-time real job. I'm just lucky enough to have 2 really awesome freelance jobs as a 50-50. One makes me feel like I'm working because it's hardcore labour, and the other one makes me feel like I'm taking the piss, basically, because I'm sat at a desk. Or I can go and write in a coffee shop, or I can, I'm doing something really
fun.
in
a coffee shop. That's right, Mike. You're trying to order. You just all you wanted to do was sit down and have a nice Starbucks. And Claire's already there with her coffee that she finished 4 hours ago, still writing on her laptop.
No, that's so rude when people do that.
It is
charging
rude.
up phones,
Laptops.
charging up battery packs.
Rude.
I take my fridge in there, plug it in, carry it down the road.
That's how I put my back out. Is washing machine. I just it's like have you got a tap as well? I've got it plugged in. I just need a water supply.
These days, it's so expensive to use anything around the house. If you could take it down Starbucks to use their lecky, then it wouldn't be a bad idea, would it?
Right. Well,
purchased a 100-watt solar panel, and I've started just charging all my phones and everything off that.
Right.
And how's that going this year with the amount of not sun we've had?
It's been sunny this week, hasn't
The
it?
last week's been amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
It's a revolution.
So how long? What's the cost of that then to buy one of those solar panel things?
So got it on offer for £100 for 100 watts of charging, which at the moment I haven't got all the right stuff even to put out 100 watts. So it's putting out 45 watts. So think of like a high power phone charger at home.
Yeah.
Or a decent home charger at home. That. For free. For free. So I'm just literally like a loser now, going around the house looking for like rechargeable batteries in remotes and things. And like I'm charging everything.
I'm going to ask you a dumb question now, but is it possible to use that to charge a kettle?
Use a kettle, you mean?
Yeah, no, charge a kettle, not use a kettle.
Charge a kettle?
Charge a kettle. Yeah, charge a kettle to use. Yeah.
Why, has your kettle got a battery?
Oh, sorry. Could you use it to boil the kettle? Oh, my days. You know what I'm trying to say. You're just winding
I know.
me up.
I know.
It's totally unnecessary, that was.
No, probably not. You'd need because most kettles, geeking out, are super high power.
That's what I mean.
In terms of like actual draw off the thing. But you can get 12-volt camping kettles. But again, you'd need like a little proper power bank thing with plugs to run that.
Right.
But even then, no point. If you wanted to go eco, just get a little gas canister. Far easier.
Right, okay.
If you wanted to be off grid.
Yeah, I don't. I just don't want it to cost me £1 every time I boil the kettle.
I mean, it is probably costing you £1.
It's like £1 to boil the kettle these days.
Do you know what? You should just go to Starbucks.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Just take everything down with you. That'd be a great little competition, wouldn't it? How many electrical devices could we get into Starbucks before they really kick off?
Well, you wait, because people are now using electric bikes, electric mopeds, electric everything else with detachable batteries. If I had a bike, I'd be having a coffee for an hour at lunch. Because you can get, like, I've looked at proper, like, sit-on bikes, but they've got, like, an 80-mile range. So I could get into London.
You mean like an electric bike? Bicycle? Yeah. Electric bicycle?
No. Electric motorbike.
Motorbike?
Without the road. Yeah.
But you don't have a motorbike license, do you?
It was easy to pick up. If you can do it, anyone can.
Right, fair enough.
80 miles, which obviously, if you put the accelerator down slightly, I'm sure that's going to go.
I wasn't prepared for you to announce that you're going to become cool on this podcast, on podcast 64. You now suddenly have an interest in riding motorbikes.
This from the man who's just done his back in.
That's taken me. That's surprised me.
I have been told basically, forget all sports. Golf's out the window. Tennis is done. Like all these things where it involves twisting. And I went, "Can I ride a bike?" She went, "That's about it. That's all you can do."
It's actually good exercise.
Like, So I've got a mountain bike, but no, I just looking at other things. So yeah, I have digressed hugely. But yeah, 100-watt solar panel. Get one.
All right. Well, what's you having in Natter? What's been in your glass and what's been up your arse then this week?
What's been in my glass is weirdly tequila. So we did the tasting with Steve Rush. All hail Steve Rush.
Yeah, big Steve.
Who supplied what was it? El Mayer?
It was El Mayer, yeah. Not Major, Mayer.
El Mayer, like John Mayo's Mexican cousin. El Mayer. And he sent the Blancos, Respirado, and the Aneo.
Which correlates to how long they've been in the cask, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like sub
I like
one,
decent tequila.
3 plus.
Blanco, not overly fussed on. Just I cannot get away from nights of doing shots and putting lemon in my eye and snorting salt because I played rugby. But the aged tequila is bloody decent. Really good stuff. And the extra aged one, the Añejo, was absolutely lovely.
Was that your favourite one?
Yeah, hands down.
I think I preferred the Respirado. Respirado? I don't know. The one with R.
Reposado. I don't know why I'm saying it in Italian accent.
Yeah.
Respirado.
That one. That was my favourite of the three. Yeah.
No. So that was good. Whiskey-wise, haven't really drunk a great deal of whiskey this week. I've had like the occasional dram. I had some of the SMWS I gave to a few people. Cutty Sark Prohibition made an appearance. What else have I had? Oh, Jameson Crested again. So
there you go.
Basic stuff because I've been barbecuing. So yeah. And what's been up my arse? Nada. I am all glorious, all good.
Wow.
Nothing has annoyed me. The Olympics are on. I've got near 24/7 sport. I'm happy as Larry. It's like a flashback to Camp America, like watching TV at the moment, because I'm like swimming to baseball to handball to like frisbee to mountain biking. I'm like, I was up till like midnight watching surfing last night. So it's like, come on.
This is because you
supporting Japan.
It's because you do actually have to get up in the morning, don't you? So to be fair, you still have to get up.
I mean, downtime with Olympics, I can highly recommend this.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'd get if I didn't have to work and do stuff, I'd get lost in the rabbit hole of the Olympics for sure.
It's quality.
But I haven't, as it stands, I haven't watched a single minute.
What?
No, neither have I.
If I could get a second TV,
No.
I'd be watching 2 sports at once.
No, but Winter Olympics, I'm in. I will take 2 weeks off work to watch the Winter Olympics.
I did
Really?
chuckle today at the
Yeah,
skateboarding.
absolutely.
Oh my God. Try and watch the skateboarding if you can, because you've got the women's competition and they're all like 15 years old to like mid-20s. Really good skateboarders. The blokes are all like 50 years old. And when they fall, they look like they're going to die. It's like, is this hip gone?
Is it all the sort of really famous skateboarders then? I can't believe
No,
there's no
even
young
the
ones.
skateboarders you'd remember are no longer skateboarding. Like, it's probably the ones that would have been teenagers when Tony Hawk and everything was knocking about. But yeah, it was quite weird to see sort of full-grown men. I was going to say in baseball caps, but I'm wearing one now. In like baggy jeans and everything else. Nah. They're in baseball caps. Like
baseball caps.
They're cool.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, but that was weird. But that's the only sport that's been really shite. I really enjoyed handball just now. Convinced I can be a handball player.
You really enjoyed handball?
100%. I was watching it going, these are just people that have stopped playing rugby. They can't play rugby anymore, so they're now playing handball.
But Mike, did you enjoy the squash?
Fuck you.
Hey! Claire, in case you didn't listen to it, we did a pop quiz with Luke Patience and we went through what were and were not Olympic sports, and the squash is one of those ones that sucks people in. It's not in the Olympics.
No.
I'm still gobsmacked by that.
Yeah. Surprising, just like cricket isn't in the Olympics. But you know, tennis and football are so disrespectful to cricket.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
2020's fine.
Short time frame.
Yeah.
Number of hits.
You know it's going to finish.
Get hammered. Done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Dunk, you've been very busy, but I'm still going to ask you, what's been in glass, what's been in glass?
Well, double busy, but I'm double busy.
Busy!
I still got time to got to sign on and get back to work. It's Mickey Flanagan, isn't it? I've still got time to have a drink. Always time for a drink. So I was doing some house renovation.
Super busy, but I always make sure I've got time for
Let's make time for a drink. So I did this tequila tasting with you, so I won't go into it, but I said which one my favourite one was. Generally, I hate tequila, and it was all drinkable, so I think thumbs up to El Mayor. I went around to mates on Saturday. He lives in Norwich. It's nice outside, wasn't it? But I saw you having your barbecue stuff, Mike. That looks really good. And he did a barbecue, not to the same level, just to be clear. Of course he didn't. Just your standard.
What did you do? Burgers and sausages?
Just chuck meat on, basically.
Loser!
I was hungry. I don't care. Anyway, I took Hazelburn Masala, a 15-year-old 20 sil bottle.
Nice.
We smashed that. I took some Highland Park 17-year-old single cask, Tomintoul single cask port. But his favourite was the Hazelburn. Super creamy, had the funk in there. Yeah. Creamy, fruity, funky. That was it, really.
That'd be like a great album name. Yeah. Creamy, fruity, funky.
It was really good. I was a little disappointed he didn't say his favourite was the Highland Park 17-year-old. I think that's my favourite of the 3 or 4 that I took over. But hey, what to do? If that's his favourite, that's his favourite.
What's been annoying you? Come on.
Well,
what's been going on in Norwich? Who's been trying to kill you this week?
No, that's not been annoying me. But he did force me to sleep on an airbed, which was hideous. I can't sleep on airbeds. So about halfway through the night, I got rid of the airbed and just slept on the quilt on the floor. And so I didn't sleep all night. So I was a little tired. The day after.
Did you not sleep, like, find it better sleeping on a hard floor?
Yeah, it was better than the airbed. I really don't like airbeds. I'm not sure how they're a thing, really. It's just
sweaty, you roll.
They're just bad. They're just so bad.
I've got a really good story about Pop in one, but I can't say it. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to say...
Thanks for the teaser.
What annoyed me today was...
I might tell you on episode 69.
That wasn't an airbed. That was a sex doll, Mike, wasn't it? What annoyed me today was I was, after dinner, I was like, oh, Eva, would you like some strawberries? And then she proceeded. She said, Daddy, I need to get down from the table and come to the kitchen. Come and untuck my chair. I need to check, how big are you cutting the strawberries? I'm like, I'm cutting them just like normal strawberries up for you. She's like, no, they can't be too small. They can't be too big. They need to be exact right size.
Oh, like Goldilocks.
I was getting
Should be having
micromanaged
no
cutting
strawberries.
I was like, you'll eat them however they come.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'd
I
still
won't.
I'd still like eyes on it. That's what she said.
No, that's
Yeah.
quality.
So I'm having a little panic now that she's going to turn into a madam.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And what's in my glass now? I've poured a 30-year-old Bunnahabhain from Malt Whitson. Thanks very much. It's been in the cupboard for a little while. 46.3%. The 30-year-old Bunnahabhain.
What, just a distillery release or an indie?
Yeah, distillery release, yeah.
He's fucking hell.
Yeah. I thought, why not?
Should go and quickly run and give some to the father-in-law.
Smells
Get
pretty
his
good.
opinion.
Yeah. Just see what he thinks.
Nice.
Nice. So, yeah, that's what we did. Now, I've organised a pop quiz for the two of you. Nothing dramatic.
Fucking wonderful.
Very good. I've organised a couple of questions. Let's just see if you know the answers. Claire should have the advantage here. Mike's 1 from beating the expert that comes on the podcast.
Oh, no, don't ask me horticultural
I kind of
questions.
cheated.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we're going to do.
I won't be able to answer them, but go on.
Well, I'm only going to pick my favourite ones. You know, I'm going to pick, 3 or 4 or something.
Unless it involves like drainage and clay, I got no hope.
I'm not sure.
Right, and I don't do Latin names often.
Okay, well, look, I love the fact you two are getting your excuses in early. I'm only going to pick the ones that I think are interesting. Okay? First question is, the love apple is the original name for what?
Pear.
Yeah, that's right. That's the spirit, Mike. You've got to have a guess. Claire?
Yeah.
Quince.
It is the tomato. Look at that.
Yeah, that's logical.
You're learning stuff as you go along. Right, one that you two might get. Which kings lived at Kew Palace at Kew Gardens?
No idea.
King George.
Yeah, King George II and King George III. I'm going to give that to Mike. That's 1-0 to Mike.
Only because
Well, you have to
it's been
pick a
on
name.
Netflix.
Seriously.
Oh, hang on. This is one, Claire. This has got to be one you've got a chance to get, okay? True or false? Chelsea is Britain's largest flower show.
I'm going to say false.
Just unfortunately, space-wise, false. Media-wise, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see.
So-
I see what you're saying. So you're both correct. It's false. That's 2-1 to Mike. RHS Hampton Court Palace Garden
Yeah,
Festival.
that's why I said space, because that's the biggest
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like
That's
that
what I
one.
was going to say.
What about this one? Which vitamin is most prevalent in a lime?
C.
Why?
Though that's probably wrong based on your face.
Fuck. I want to say, I can't say vitamin C because you said it. It's the most obvious. Vitamin A.
Yeah, it's vitamin C. So I guess Claire got there first. So 2-2. So let's have the decider then.
So you should eat on boats, so take them in barrels to stop scurvy.
Scurvy.
Yeah, 100%.
Lemons and limes and oranges.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a question about broccoli here somewhere. Okay, on which continent did broccoli originate?
Right, a consonant, please, Carol.
This is the decider.
Europe.
Claire?
Asia.
Yes! Mike, you're 2 for 2. Europe.
I'd have said like Sweden.
I don't know. We could look it up even further, couldn't we? But apparently, yeah, it's Europe. So there we go. There's some gardening / is that would they be vaguely classed as sort of gardening
They were
questions?
nutrition questions and history questions.
That was a bit of a mix, wasn't it, to be fair? Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like you did that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is.
Almost.
Do you know what I actually wanted to do? I didn't have time to prepare it. Is I really wanted to do.
You had time for a drink though.
I did have time for a drink. Always make time for a drink. I wanted to do a quiz which was based on famous grass and famous grasses. So it was a mixture between famous types of grass and famous people who snitched in history.
See, now
Famous
I would have
grass or
gone
famous
for
grouse?
rude plant names.
Oh, rude plant names. Oh, when
Like Cockburnianus.
you come back on episode 128, Claire, we'll remember that for you.
And that is an actual
Once you're
plant
cured.
name, Mike. But our friend Monty would pronounce it Cockburnianus.
Cockburnianus. That does sound a bit posh, doesn't it? So why don't we kick off with a real whiskey question then? If you go into a rubbish pub, you know, it's like rubbish pub, you go in, they don't have any whiskey behind the bar that's any good.
You dig the barman out and you say, look, I'm taking over. What 3 drams are you having behind that bar for everyone to enjoy?
I'm old enough, young enough to live in an age where the bar selections aren't as bad as they used to be, which is good. So I'm going to base this on one that I went to in Beckenham a few years back, and they had a typical Glenfiddich 12,
Classic.
which is fine. They had a Glenmorangie 10, which is absolutely fine. but they also had a very dusty Glen Murray.
Ooh.
Glen Murray.
Yeah,
Glen Murray.
Chardonnay cask finish. Yeah.
Nice.
And when I asked them how much that was per dram, they said £2.50. And I said, I'm in for the night.
Yeah. How many bottles do you have?
Pass the bottle.
I'll buy them off you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do like a bar that doesn't know what they have.
Oh, that's a bit of a different twist, isn't it? When they don't realise the whiskey they've got, right? Yeah.
Mm.
Nice.
That is exciting. When you do a quick bit of maths in your head and you realise that it's cheaper to buy a shot from the bar or a 30ml pour than it would be to buy the bottle from retail. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, you see that every so often and someone just buys the bottle and takes it home with them.
Yeah.
And you know that's the point with the bar staff twig and they're like, oh, we've underpriced this, haven't we?
They keep asking how many we've got left.
Mm.
So, I read an article recently in Whiskey magazine, Claire, that you'd written.
Don't turn your head away in disgust.
About whiskey influencers. Now, Mike and I were a little bit upset that we weren't mentioned in there. Obviously, we're on the forefront of everyone's lips when it comes to whiskey influencers.
No, I can see where I may have really, really messed up on this.
It's because it was so obvious.
I think
you didn't
to
think
direct
to include it.
quote
and
you.
I really hope.
No, just to directly quote you, okay. I think you said something like whiskey podcasts are 10 a penny, something like that. But obviously, YouTube channels, they're a bit more a bit more highbrow, isn't it?
It's so the reason for that article is sort of twofold. So on my original website, I'd actually written something about influencers a few months beforehand, and I was just looking to see if Whiskey Mag would actually pick up one of my articles and just sort of run with it. So I pitched that one to them, and we sort of developed it a little bit more. It didn't go exactly the way that I wanted it to go.
The tone of your original article,
which was interesting. My original article is probably a little bit more blunt and frank than what you read in Whiskey Mag.
Yeah, I read your original article. Actually, I read the article in Whiskey Magazine as well, so I've read both of them. And the original article was a bit more about whiskey influencers being more honest about things that they're gifted and really, and that's something which I really believe in. I like to see when people, you know, I'm no problem with people sharing and talking about whiskey that they've been given. That's part of the promotion in the industry, but I like people to be honest and upfront about the fact that they've been gifted it.
It's still not happening. And it's
definitely a problem as well because people forget.
I still haven't drunk it.
Mike, please, Mike, we said we'd do it in the summer. We said it would be the 12 days of summer. Why it's got a Christmas advent calendar.
It's summer right now, you know that, right?
So I loved your original article. I thought it was excellent. And I thought it really got to a point which means something to me, which is being honest with people, right? Almost like we named the pod Honest to a Malt. But it does mean something. I've, as I said, got no problem with people promoting stuff, but you've got to say you've been given it for free. I'll tell you why. Because people out there spend more money than they should do on whiskey in reality. Yeah. They're spending their hard-earned money that they could have been spending on something else to do with their family or something else or whatever. That's their choice. But at the same time, if they're buying it because they think that you really think it's the best whiskey in the world and you were just given it and you haven't been honest about that,
that's
totally wrong, right?
Yep.
I totally agree. So what I'm finding, and I am sort of calling people out very occasionally on it when I can be bothered to put my energy into that space. It's not just what I would call your normal content maker. And when I say normal content maker, I'm talking about people who do content making and influencing within the whiskey sphere for fun. They're getting a couple of bottles, they're talking about it. The ones that I have a real issue with are the ones that work within the industry.
Right, okay.
Who are high up and work in big companies and or freelance or whatever, but they are recognised, well-recognised people who still do not use the words PR, ad, gift.
Oh, okay, all right.
It really annoys me. Now, that may not come across in the second article so much, and I'll tell you why it doesn't come across so much on the second article. And this is where I will lose my self-work, but that's fine. On the second article, when I put the paperwork in, I actually noted the government legislation part about what you should be saying and what you shouldn't be saying. I was questioned as to what my authority on that was. I'm like, I'm a UK citizen. It's government legislation. Yeah. It's basically what I don't have to have an authority on it. It's there as a consumer to protect me, etc., etc. That wasn't particularly liked as a comment. And that my wording was changed.
Oh, okay. That's what happens with editorial.
Which I found really interesting.
That's what happens with editorial sometimes, isn't it? You know, that's the point. You know, they've got something that they want to communicate across, and you've got something you want to communicate across. And I think you should just see it as a compliment that they decided that they wanted you to write about a bit about influencers, 100%. About the importance of influencers within the industry, because it's not really been acknowledged that, to be honest, most whiskey is being sold through events. I'd say whiskey clubs and influencers. And other than that, spending an absolute shed load of money on marketing.
It's a very cheap way to get a product out there.
Definitely.
And in doing the interviews, I spent a lot of time interviewing 4 people for that article. Unfortunately, not yourselves. But even, and to give you back your credit, even the setup for this particular podcast, I'm like gobsmacked on how much technical work goes in there. And for me, that is just I'm just never going to do it. I'm not interested in it. It's far too technical for me, as you probably saw. So I have a newfound respect for influencers who are putting out constant content.
And the time they put
really
into
do.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
I do wonder we're going to be losing influencers over the next couple of years, generally because they may not be making back what they're putting into it. I think a lot of them did start up or became more popular during the lockdown period. And influencers everywhere were becoming more popular during the lockdown period. And you could see people skyrocketing in their careers. They were just lucky. And I think a lot of people saw those people skyrocketing and figured they could be part of that. But whiskey the industry is a big pie and everybody has a slice. And if everybody's got a slice, trust me, you're not getting much to eat. Do you know what I mean? So I do think we are going to lose people. I've seen people, and one of the reasons I did that, my first article, was because I'd seen someone put up, I'm not going to be doing this so often now. I'm just not able to afford it. Kit costs.
Yeah.
And my initial response was, did you expect to make a career out of it?
Yeah.
What's your purpose for doing it? Why are you an influencer? It's not a job unless you're really, really going to turn it into a job.
That was the question you first asked me.
You can't expect to be...
That's what you said. Why'd you guys do this? I said, we just do it for a laugh to start off with. And then as a creative outlet. And then also, you know, obviously it helps with... it's nice to get to know people in the industry, even though neither of us work in the industry, to be clear. But
you've done a shift now, Duncan. You've done a shift.
Done a shift.
You're honorary.
Oh yeah, that was that was unpaid though. That was unpaid. That was like seeing how the other side operates, right? That was more me just piquing my interest. Claire there is talking about when I volunteered on the Glasgow distillery stand at Croydon. Which was
all right. It's not like going to a fucking soup kitchen. Yeah, I volunteered to go down and spend.
They would have been, and Mike's right.
Serving Christmas dinner to homeless people. Fucking hell.
They would have been fine without me. To be fair, Libby would have been fine without me. But it was more just for me to see what it was like to be on the other side, especially with like people getting wasted as they go around,
drunk,
and all that kind of stuff. And,
yes.
And it's really hard work. It reminded me of a lot of service jobs and stuff that I've done. We should say, Claire, that your website is called "Can't See the Wood for the Whiskey," isn't it?
Yes. However, I am trying.
It used to be called.
Because of my 2 weird industry interests, I did have 2 separate websites. But I can't, and I know that I'm not the only person who's interested in whiskey and horticulture. Many other people are interested in both. They may not be situated in both. So I'm actually transferring everything over to Substack at the moment. Right. So everything's all in one space. So you can find me under my name, Claire Vokins, but it still also can't see the wood for the whiskey.
Okay. They could Google that and find you, couldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, just Google Claire Vokins. There aren't many of us around. We're very rare. We are literally 1 in 21 million across the planet.
That you've worked it out, have you? How many Claire Vokins exist?
No, I looked it up on a website about how rare surnames are.
Days, I might check that out.
It's really interesting.
There's another chap with the exact same name as me that's a drinks writer. Brilliant.
There you
Was
go.
it meant to be, Mike, or has he already stolen your thunder?
One of us is getting stuff the other one should be getting, because I've had people contact me going, "Do you want this?" I'm like, "Yeah." What do you have? And they're like, "You're writing a story for it." I'm like, "No, why would I write a story?" And it's like, "You're a writer." No, I'm not. They're like, oh, wrong person. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Oh my days, that might be the easiest. That feels like that wouldn't be too much of a stretch.
That could have been a hustle.
Yeah, you could just have
mate.
identity frauded them, right? Just taking it over.
Yeah, we have like messaged a couple of times, just having a laugh. To be fair.
On the influence stuff, do you think there's got more legs to run in it? Do you think we're going to see more and more influencers, or do you think it's kind of peaked? Where do you think it's at?
I think it's going to be consistent for a little while longer. But I do see some influencers, and I'm not going to name names, I can see them stepping into other careers now that they've honed particular skills. So I've seen a couple of them are now becoming photographers, which means they can spread their experience into different realms where you can use a camera.
They could write off the cost of the camera as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think time-wise, everything has its time. And I think we are in a time of influencers and content creators. And whilst people are willing to accept doing what is sometimes a fair amount of work for what is monetary-wise quite low, then companies will continue to utilise that tool.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's one of those things. If you want to make a career out of it, then you need to step up your game and you need to really, really be on it 100%. If you're doing it as a hobby, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But going back to like the original thought process of we need them to be transparent, that's the big thing. There is an influencer content creator that I see quite often. I have never seen whiskey go into that person's mouth.
Right.
In any photograph or in real life. Ever.
Classic
Yeah, they
closed
have a
bottle photos.
huge following. Massive following.
Yeah. Sometimes some of
I've
these people do
never
have really
seen
big
them.
followings. I've often...
Paid for is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Mike tells me.
And that's fine. If they have a contract with a company, that's all
I thought
good.
I was the cynical one, but it turns out Mike's way more cynical than I am. And
I know.
So
I
I'm
could
like,
easily go and
I'm
pay
cynical.
200 quid and I could get the podcast 1,000 or 10,000 followers overnight.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
at some point, all of those accounts are going to get shut down
right.
and you're going to look like a fucking idiot.
What happens if they
Because
never do though? What happens if they
following's gonna
just
drop.
continue to be? Because I said to Mike for this, I thought it'd be a great thing to do it. Pay 50 quid or whatever and buy 5,000 followers, and then talk about it openly. No, talk about it openly, not pretend we got them.
Yeah.
like buy them,
Yeah.
and then go through the thing. And if they left, then talk about that and try to do a bit of an expose on it. But Mike just said no, he shut it down because he's always worried about China.
It's just no point, because I think most people are aware that someone who has massive numbers, if you start clicking through those followers, they are 0 posts, 2 followers, not,
Right.
you can just tell.
You can tell, okay.
They have absolutely nothing to do with the whiskey
But it still
industry.
seems to be a lot of those people that and then I'm sure some of them have built their followers genuinely. Let's just say that to be clear.
Yeah, there are 100%.
But there still seems to be maybe some of them have built their followers genuinely, but it still seems to be, if you look at it, that the people with the bigger numbers get sent the most stuff. That's how it works. It's a
I
numbers
think that's
game.
down to lazy marketing. That's lazy
Right,
marketing.
okay.
That's some lazy marketing team.
Yep.
So during my conversations to put the piece together for Whiskey Mag, we were talking to Libby, our lovely Libby Barnby from Glasgow.
She'll be on next week.
She not only is a brand ambassador, but she's also part of the marketing team. I think she is the marketing team. And she was saying, we're looking not just at numbers, but we're looking at engagement. Are people talking to each other on their Instagram posts? Are they speaking to other people? Are we seeing them at festivals? Are these genuine people within the whiskey sphere? Do they align with our thoughts, our processes, our ethics? How do they align with our particular company? And that's how they're choosing people to send, products to. But not every company has an in-house marketing team. So as soon as you put it out to PR, to a PR company, you've already missed a step. So you've got people just going, okay, they've got loads of numbers. They're not even checking a percentage of how many likes they're getting per post to see if they've got good engagement. It's just big numbers, we'll send it out. So I think it's down to the companies themselves to ensure that their marketing teams or contracted PR companies are doing a better job on who they're choosing to promote their products. And I think you'd get a far more honest overall within the industry.
If you look at Vinny, No Nonsense Whiskey, He's just, the graph that lad puts in and has done for years, he's just hit 3,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
How is that like?
But he's got quite a big following on YouTube, though, hasn't he, to be fair?
Yeah. But to put it in perspective, like someone that is attending events and doing fancy photos and stuff has got 110,000 followers. You're like,
right.
Bought, all lies. But they will get the better things because PR companies.
But this isn't just a whiskey thing. I'm going to segue into horticulture.
Yeah.
We get the same thing in horticulture as well. And to some extent, that drives me even more insane.
Does it drive you potty, Claire?
Oh, excuse the puns. Okay, we can really get the puns coming.
You're welcome,
in on
but you have to slip it in when someone's expecting it. That's the
puns are innuendo because I'm bad
that's how it works,
with puns, but I'm great with innuendo.
You've got to slip it in.
Stop it. So there's in gardening influencing, they were actually ahead of the game when it came to talking about PR, gifted ads, and all that kind of stuff. They were well ahead of whiskey with regards to that. But you are watching good people sell out, and you are watching really crappy people get so much promotion.
Right.
So there's one particular guy who he just needs to be taken off of Instagram. Who actually
sounds
works
like a lot of people I see on Instagram, which are not whiskey related. I'm like, why am I seeing this crap? Right.
So this man, this person, he's called Tom. I don't mind naming him. And his website or his Instagram thing is Garden with Tom. He actually owns a bailiff company. He's a really nice guy. And he has figured out that
I'd say
he
that
can
if I owed
buy... He has figured out he could buy followers and then get contracts and deals with all these gardening companies. I don't know how many pots of hydrangea this man has fed, but based on his Instagram feed, he's got at least 100, and his lawn must look horrendous because he's constantly showing us how to reseed it with particular products. The other problem is he's actually giving out really bad information.
Right, okay.
Really, really incorrect information with regards to horticulture. Now, in whiskey, I don't think a tasting note is a good thing or a bad thing. It's a personal opinion. But in horticulture, if you have people listening to someone with all these followers, then clearly he must know what he's talking about. He hasn't got a clue. Yeah. And then we get a problem with people thinking that he's saying the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely loads of misinformation out there.
And there's a knock-on effect in that.
Spending a fortune, killing stuff because they just...
Yeah, exactly. And he's promoting lots of really big chemically kind of plastic stuff, which again is really bad. But I have seen people in horticulture land who have been genuinely great gardeners, really, really into protecting the planet, selling out, and actually promoting unnecessary products, and you just know they've just fallen into that trap.
I've got to jump in there, Claire, because this happens. This happens in everything. Like
yeah,
closest to my heart, or closest to most people's hearts, would be in music. You know, when you get a band and you really love the band and do the first album, and then they do the second album, and you go, oh, they sold out, they commercialized. Of course, because what happens is, then the people who were with them on the journey to start off with are so invested at that point that the majority of them stay.
Yeah, and
those people, they remember when that person was really authentic. But to get then, as they get popular, other people just start jumping on board. But at the same time, companies are saying to them, we want you to do this, we want you to present like this, we want you to sound like this, we want you to seed your lawn like this, right? And they're like, okay, I'll seed my lawn like that, you know, because now I'm getting some money.
It's just for me, it's disingenuous. It really, really is.
It is, but not everyone will. You know, we can't all be that fella from Baby Shabbles and the Libertines, you know. Like, we can't all be that authentic. It's not possible.
But
I'm not talking about us. I'm chucking
no, I get
it. What's the word when you haven't experienced it? Is it sympathy or empathy? Is it empathy?
No, I would go for sympathy because empathy is a dodgy word.
So sympathy, whatever it's the one when you haven't directly experienced it. I would chuck that their way and say, give them a bone. They've worked really hard. They've got to a certain point. And now they just want to like make a bit of money and it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
However,
but
when you have built your popularity and career on a particular ethos, and then the things you're promoting are directly
you can't do that if you're lying. You shouldn't be lying. And that comes back to the whole gifted thing we talked about earlier. You shouldn't be lying, full stop. Right?
Exactly.
And if you think people are going to spend their own hard-earned money on it, that's where social media is like the Wild West. No one's on there saying, oh, this is actually a lie. Like they introduced that fact checker on X or Twitter or whatever it is, but they only really do it with politics. But you almost need that across the whole of the internet going,
of course you do.
This seed will kill your lawn, right? Or,
or do not do this at this time of year. You're not going to win.
And also when the person that owns the sort of channel itself is a far-right lunatic that wants to say that is
I'm so
against
glad
censorship,
I'm no longer on Twitter.
against censorship,
Oh my word.
but censors anyone that...
The thing is, Claire, is the art to Twitter or X is don't engage with anything other than whiskey, and then it's totally fine. My feed is just whiskey. That's it.
Oh, I can't. See, I can't help it.
Right, you get sucked in.
That's the problem. I get sucked in, and I have so many interests that I'm not going to be this 1 or 2 dimensional person.
Yeah.
If you know me, which you guys sort of do reasonably well, I'm not just about whiskey and horticulture.
100%.
There is so much more.
We actually call you 3D Claire.
3D Claire. I love that. But don't be surprised if I talk about other topics.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to look at other topics. So I had to come off Twitter because, it wasn't doing me any good. I was just seeing the world in a very negative light.
No, that's fair enough. It's not for everybody, is it?
And that's cool, and I have to say, I don't miss it.
Yeah.
Do not miss
Well,
it.
we should all spend less time on phones and social media. A period is a
100%.
given, right? I mean, it's better to spend more time with your friends or on a even on a Zoom call talking to someone whilst having a whiskey than
100%
staring at social media. But the reality is that we want to do that a little bit, right? You're balancing your whiskey content. Now, that reminds me, how did you get into whiskey? And I call it gardening. You call it horticulture.
I do.
My only connection to gardening is Alan Titchmarsh. That's it, right?
Actually, well, it's better than some
But
people.
how did you get into both of those things? I think around the same time.
Really, long story short, I became really sick and had to have lots and lots of food intolerance tests. And basically, I was intolerant to everything. And one of the things I could control is growing my own food. I knew it would be stuff I like, stuff that I can eat, no chemicals, no pesticides, and I got an allotment in 2006. So that's how I got into the gardening side. And so that was me controlling my food. One of the big things that I can't, and I still can't take, is sulfites. And I was really into red wine. And back in that time, wine still had a lot of sulfites.
Yeah.
So I had to, over time, change what I was drinking. And I went through a period of just drinking vodka and getting fucked up on tequila, which is great. I always hate the first one, but the next 20 are fantastic. But at some point, I was like, I really want to find something that I can drink, but I don't have to finish within 2 or 3 days. And that left me in a position of, well, there's whiskey, there's vodka, there's brandy, there's rum. Rum's too sweet, brandy I didn't like, vodka's boring, leaves me with whiskey. And whiskey at that time, back in 2011, 2012, the smell of it made me retch.
Right.
We were stuck. But
Impasse.
doing my research, doing my research, I was like, well, actually, it's a really interesting spirit.
Yeah.
And if I can learn to like it, then maybe that could be my drink. So my first ever bottle that I bought was an Aberlour 12, because I read up that single malts were the best whiskey, obviously, because that's what you do when you first get into whiskey.
Yeah.
And it took me 2 weeks of just pouring some and sniffing it to get to the point where I wasn't retching at the smell.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I started to taste it, and it wasn't so bad. I actually took it further in my research, and I decided that I should join a whiskey club so I could learn more. And I joined the Soho Whiskey Club.
Okay.
And you had to be nominated at the time to join that club, and I didn't know anybody who drank whiskey. So I emailed them, and I went in, and I met George Keeble at the time and Patrick, explained my awful situation, and within 2 hours I was on my 3rd liquid.
Oh, right.
And that's how my entrance into whiskey started. And like in gardening, the 2012 period is quite a weird period of time. I became another bout of sickness and completely stepped away from the job I was doing and went self-employed in gardening because I wanted a much easier life, and that didn't work out.
Yeah. Gardening or horticulture is quite hard graft, isn't it?
It is hard graft, and which I enjoy. Every job I've ever had has been physical. I worked in aviation as a mechanic. I worked in construction. blah, blah, blah. So I've always had a physical job. So working outside and being physical is not a problem. But with anything that used to be a hobby, when you turn it into a job, it comes with job stress.
Yeah.
It becomes with running a business stress and all those kinds of things. So yeah, they both sort of happened at the same time.
Right.
So 2012, I became a self-employed gardener and started drinking whiskey.
I think I'd heard it partially before, but it's amazing that you really were so determined to get into liking whiskey after deciding that it's something that that deserved to be liked. I don't think many people have that kind of whiskey entrance story. I mean, look, I always liked booze, and it seemed like the best booze in the spirit world. Once you got past the rubbish teachers and other stuff, the really bad blends, and you actually tried the good stuff like Aberlour, etc. I was like, yeah, this is really good. I'm in, easy, right?
I think for me, I still view myself very much as a newbie within the industry because my memory of getting into whiskey is still very, very strong. So when I'm doing the brand ambassador work and people say, oh, I don't like whiskey, they're my favourite people because there's a point in time that I didn't like whiskey. And it's like, your taste buds change over time and you can learn to like something. As soon as you start to understand it and appreciate it, that's the way you can get into something. And I'm doing the same with bourbon right now. So
Mike's the bourbon guy. I mean, Mike has got me more into bourbon. I go around
and
Mike's
Mike
and
will
Mike just gets them all
know
out.
that I would always say I don't like bourbon, but
Unless
because
it's
of
with
a
a piece of
particular
chocolate.
Well, there you go, right? And it's got to be 24 years old at least, right? but that was the bourbon that got me into bourbon.
Oh, that 24-year-old Heaven Hill is
right.
unbelievable. I mean, that would get anybody into
But
whiskey.
I'm doing a job at the moment where I create content for a website in the US. It's bourbon based. So I'm learning about bourbon in order to do that job. And in that learning, I'm trying bourbons and I'm trying lots. And actually, it's finding the one and the style that you like gets you into it. Yeah. So I've gone from being a bourbon hater to going, actually, I quite like that and I like that. And yeah, we're all good now. So yeah.
Nice.
Perseverance.
Exactly.
You mentioned actually there that about tasting. And one of the things that strikes me is you've got a better understanding of flowers and gardens and things like that than the majority of people. And so how does that affect your tasting notes when you're sniffing and trying whiskey?
They're different. It's like all my careers will make me have completely different tasting notes to everybody else. One of the reasons I love Twitter and actually ended up hating it was when we're doing tweet tastings with Steve. I love Steve and I love tweet tastings. But how many ways can you describe vanilla? It's Madagascar vanilla, it's finest vanilla, it's something infused vanilla, it's caramel cream, it's custard, it's just bloody vanilla.
Well, I don't know if I fully agree with that. I do think you get ranges of vanilla, but yes, I mean.
But, some people would just go to that extent of, my God, how can you just pick up all that stuff? But I truly believe when it comes to nosing and tasting, some people will get that slightly mixed up. How often have you actually chewed on a leather seat to know what a leather seat tastes like? You know what it smells like, but you don't know what it tastes like unless you've actually done that. Now, I can honestly, hand on heart, say, I know what petrol and diesel taste like because I have sucked that through a tube. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've tried petrol.
When I was, how to empty a fuel tank, and we just suck it through a tube. I know what it tastes like. Oil, it's disgusting. Tastes absolutely horrendous. So I will, if I can smell those things or taste them in a whiskey, then I'll bring that up. When it comes to the horticulture side, you get up close and personal with a lot of stuff in a garden. Some of it's nice, some of it's not so nice, but some of it's really unusual. One of my favourites, and I get this in a number of whiskies, and I can't remember them now, but I can find out. I get the smell of cotinus, which is known as a smoke bush in a lot of places, which has beautiful purple leaves. Smoke bush.
Smoke bush, okay, not smoke bush. Name. Sorry, yeah, that's less. Right.
Yeah, episode 69. So it's like, it has this wonderful fragrance, and I have picked that up in whiskey on a number of occasions. But unless you are there, cutting cotinus branches,
you wouldn't know.
You're not going to smell that. No. You wouldn't know that. But then you would allocate that smell to something else that you are familiar with.
I bet somebody listens to this episode and chucks cotinus branches in as a taste, as As a nicing note,
I'm
Mike,
Let's
I'm
see, right?
screenshotting
just chuck that in. People will be like, Cotinus branches? What on earth is that?
But exactly. But, if you've got a Cotinus in your back garden, go and cut the branch and just give it a smell. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, there's certain things that I will pick up in whiskey that I know I've smelt during the day job. Like, I've smelt that in a garden. And that's nice. But I'm going to tell a story because it makes me laugh. So, again, I'm not naming names, but I saw somebody create a whiskey blog about scent and nosing, and they were using floral scents.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying things like, a yellow rose smells like X, and a red rose smells like this. And I'm just, from a horticultural perspective, I'm like, what the are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Sniffing roses.
Like, this is ridiculous. Colours do not smell.
No, it's just a genetic variation that
Right?
changes the colour.
And I sort of mentioned it to that person, and they went, I've changed it. A long-stemmed red rose smells like this. And I gave up, because if you can't understand that it's not the colour, but it's the smell, unless you've got that condition, synaphasia, where, you can taste colours and stuff.
That's quite a lot of effort for people to go to, isn't it? To be describing the differences in how one rose may, in their...
But it wasn't even like a rose. It was a colour of all red roses.
That's probably a really
like
good
X.
shout, though. They might have that.
They might have that, yeah.
It could be this. Yeah.
I've finished this Bunnahabhain 30-year-old now. I just had a wee look on the website, and they charge £650 for it these days. So I just wanted to say another huge thanks to Walt Whitson.
That's not bad for a 30-year-old, I'll be honest, in the current climate.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real treat.
Realistically, are you going to buy this whiskey?
Well,
Yes or no?
100% no at £650. But
Yeah,
I have to say,
don't worry about it.
It was beautiful and creamy, and it's a beautiful whiskey. I think if it was like, this is going to sound terrible, I think it was like 200 quid, I'd have a bottle. But at 650, it's a bit too much for me. So, Claire, are you ready to do Pudding Island Drams with us?
I think so.
Well, over to Mike to explain Pudding Island Drams for new listeners.
You are being transported magically to an island of your choosing. It could be tropical, it could be rainy, it could be Wales. You are there for 30 days. You have the option of taking with you one whiskey, one album, no playlist or compilations.
No country.
Like your... No country trad playlists like certain Stu Dick.
Did we say country trad's okay, but modern country's not?
Nah, we're banning all
country.
Country's fine, but no playlist.
Okay, no playlist.
No compilations. Yeah. You choose how you're getting home, mode of transport, and who's bringing you. Oh, and of course, what pudding are you eating for the 30 days?
Okay.
So, where do you want to start? Firstly, island. What?
Set the scene first, Claire. What's your perfect? Island
is it an
escape?
allotment?
I'm going to stay on brand. I'm going to go to the Isle of Skye.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. But on a slightly warmer and less wet period of 30 days.
But obviously it has to be uninhabited, so what are you going to do with all the people?
Oh, listen, if they know what I'm like, they know not to come near me anyway. That's fine.
They'll set up a perimeter.
You know, I have
like
a social
Jurassic
battery,
Park.
which is like, I'm going to have like a social battery sign up that basically says, I'm done with people.
Giant electric fences around this section that's been cordoned off.
It's just not. So that would be sort of where maybe a little island off the Isle of Skye, a little space for 30 days, and my whiskey. Going off-brand, I'm sorry to say it would be a Talisker 57 North.
Right.
Okay.
And I thought about this a long time, and any time anybody asks me what my favourite whiskey is, other than the standard answer of whatever's in my glass at the moment, that would be my whiskey.
Right.
It's the one that really sort of opened everything up for me within terms of whiskey.
What is it you love about, beyond being that sort of gateway whiskey for you, what is it you love particularly about that bottle then?
For me, it just represents everything I can imagine about Talisker and Skye. And I can imagine myself standing on a cliff with the rain absolutely hammering down, watching a storm out at sea, with a glass of 57 North in my hand.
Yeah.
And it's always been that image for me. And it just tastes fantastic. It's a great whiskey. Really.
That's a nice... You reminded me that I once tweeted a haiku about drinking Talisker. And Talisker replied, and I posted a picture of somebody in a tent by the coast, on a mountain or whatever.
Yeah.
And they said, oh my gosh, I hope you're okay in that tent. I was like, I'm not really in a tent. I just felt like the picture suited the haiku.
They genuinely cared.
They genuinely thought I was. I mean, the haiku was about being in a tent by the thing. That's why I pictured a post.
Yeah.
That's why I posted a picture of that. But they just thought I was. They just took me at my word for it. But no, I mean, I wasn't in a tent. I was enjoying my Talisker
cool.
at home in the warm, in the dry.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have never posted a haiku. However, I do have the pleasure of asking you, while you're sipping that whiskey, what would be the album you're listening to as you're looking out at the coast?
It would be the Double Kinks album that my father got me on cassette when I was about 3 or 4 years old. I can't remember the title of it, but it had a red cover. I love the Kinks, and by the age of 4, I knew all the words to Lola, and I've still got those cassettes now.
I love the fact that you've dropped cassette as well. That's class.
Yeah.
I haven't even
I'm
thought
old.
of that before.
And I'd obviously have to bring something to play the cassettes on.
That's allowed.
Yeah, that's what I would have. Because their songs are just, from that particular album, are very much storytelling. They're just amazing. And it just opened me up. There's songs like Afternoon Tea and Last of the Old-Fashioned Steam Engines and David Watts. And they're just brilliant, brilliant songs. So, yeah, I could listen to that. I still listen to that over and over again.
Love it.
So, yeah.
Happy days.
Dessert-wise, I'm not a sweet tooth, and because of my various special person food needs, there's not much that I can eat. So it's certainly not going to be a fruit salad because I eat dust. It would be a dairy-free vanilla ice cream with a pour of espresso over the top. Basically, a nice affogato. It's what I have every time I have dessert. Yeah, it's lovely. I could eat that all day, every day.
Free of histamine. That's the way. That is mega.
Now you're going to ask me who's going to come and pick me up and how I'm going to be taken away.
You've had your 30
Well, I
days.
have to say I'm going to be airlifted by Chinook, obviously, because it's my favourite all-time aircraft.
Nice. And who's flying it? Who's flying it?
Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm sorry. I need the humour and I need the Jackman. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, why not?
I have seen, if you get the chance, I need to just dig it out on YouTube quickly.
I haven't watched that yet. I really want to go and watch it at the cinema.
What, the new one?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
It's I saw it the other day, and I have to say it's a non-entity film. It's, if you have never watched any of the other Deadpools, any Marvel films, any X-Men films, and you don't understand the relationship between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, you will not understand the film.
Yeah,
right.
But from a personal perspective, you could turn the sound off and still enjoy it. So, you know, I enjoyed it.
If you want to see those two, like, in terms of peak love and banter between them, you have to go and look at First We Feast on YouTube.
Okay.
And they do a section of celebrities having an interview whilst doing hot sauces that go up in scale.
I've seen that,
awesome. I need to watch that.
These two...
They get on well.
I just love that their relationship is just wonderful. Yeah.
I use LOL all the time. I was laughing out loud. Just hilarious.
Just whilst you mentioned that, Mike, I haven't seen that particular one, but I've seen the hot sauce thing, right? I've seen a couple of them. They're very funny. Totally agree. Mm-hmm. They did something on BBC for a while where they get two famous celebrities who've been on a film together, and instead of interviewing them about the film, they would just do a short where they just sat there in two chairs opposite each other and they had to chuck insults at each other until one of them cracked. And
I love that.
That is on BBC, and I think the famous one is Will Ferrell and my God, what's his name?
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, but they also did one with Jennifer Lawrence and I think it might have been Ryan Reynolds. And that was also hilarious. That's a top tip from... What's the hot sauce thing called again, Mike?
First We Feast.
First We Feast. And if you search for the other things and watch... If you haven't watched it, Will Ferrell against Mark Wahlberg doing that BBC.
So good.
Just trying to keep a straight face.
I like it. I think that's good. Solid choices all round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about today, Claire?
I've been really reserved so far.
You're going to regret that tomorrow. You're going to go, I wish I'd said more.
Yeah.
No. I mean, like, public service-wise, I think it would be expected, because I'm on a podcast, that maybe we should talk about women in whiskey.
Yeah.
and have a different point of view on that.
As you brought it up.
Yeah, as you brought it up.
Well,
feel free. It's not something,
you know,
not something Mike and I can really comment on too much, being men in whiskey.
Well, no, I think you can. I think you can, and I think you should. Because it's not just looking at it from the point of view of being female or male in the industry, it's about how we're all treated.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that's being missed.
We're not technically in the industry because, as we pointed out today, we're really hobbyists.
You're industry adjacent. You're industry adjacent.
We're on the perimeter.
But I just love that, right? So you're industry
I'm writing
adjacent.
that down. That's going in the podcast description.
Industry adjacent.
But also you are consumers in the industry. And
Definitely
I think
consuming, definitely.
When this thing first came about, the women in whiskey thing, I think it got misconstrued about women in the whiskey industry and women drinking whiskey. And I think they're two very different parts of the conversation. And anyone who knows me will know that I am not necessarily on board with creating exclusive groups of just women to drink whiskey. I think it needs to go a step further and actually integrate women and other sexes to be drinking whiskey together.
Right.
But I think the main issue that we have actually sits with places that serve whiskey and the companies that make whiskey in how we are teaching our staff, whether it's at shows or behind a bar, to deal with situations that they see occurring, which may make people feel unsafe, unwanted within the whiskey industry. So I say this as someone who has run pubs back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and as someone who used to be a licensed store supervisor. A lot of the issues I really, truly believe can be not completely resolved, because it's never going to be completely resolved, but it's down to people learning how to utilise tools such as legislation, health and safety, staff training, to actually create a space that people feel comfortable in. Rather than the safe space being social media, the safe space needs to be the place that you are in.
Yeah.
And that comes down to staff training. It really, really does. It comes down to understanding that brand ambassadors, people who are working in bars, people who are serving whiskey, have to be trained in a particular way to have the confidence to intervene or to talk back to somebody.
Yeah, call shit out.
When they're receiving a behaviour they may perceive as an assault on them, whether verbally or physically. And sometimes it's just taking a step back. For example, and I'm going to use this awful example because I really hate it. It's the do you, and I hate the fact that people put even, like whiskey. Right? Because even the word even is creating an emotional thing to start off with. I get it. I have people asking me, do I like whiskey? But I take a breath before I respond. That person could be asking that question for so many different reasons. It's not always about you.
What you're saying is you try to be a bit more understanding to sort of work through it. We did have Annabelle Thomas on recently, the founder of McNean, and she said that's the thing that most annoys her, that she gets asked. And she's like, I founded a whiskey distillery, and fair play to her. And she's like, people ask me if I like whiskey, and she's like, I wouldn't do it if I didn't like whiskey. And that's like...
But I'm going to take this back a step further, right? If you have two people, one person behind a counter serving whiskey, i.e. me, or you even.
Yeah, it could be me. Done it once.
Even. Yeah. And a person coming towards you to try that whiskey. The first word that's important is you are serving. You are in servitude, which puts you at a lower point, okay? So the person coming towards you has the power. The person serving technically doesn't have power because you are in servitude. If that person then says to you, do you like whiskey? The fact that your automatic response is to justify whether you like whiskey or not still gives the other person the power. So I don't do that. What you should be doing is stopping and saying, I'll answer your question, but you tell me why you asked in the first place. Because then you're in that position of power and you're putting the onus back on that person to examine why they asked that question. And the times that I've done that, I have had the response of, well, those three people over there didn't, and they didn't know what they were talking about. Men and women. Or they've had a bad experience somewhere else. It isn't just because you are a female or a male, younger male even, this happens quite often. drinking or serving.
Do you know, that's one thing I was going to say, Claire.
Gotta have that conversation.
We have that within like the lads group, right? So first off is, I have to point out here for everyone who's listening to this fresh ears, my wife is a massive whiskey fan, and generally I think that anyone can drink anything. Like, it's whatever you like. So my default position, I know Mike's default
100%.
position, but it's exactly the same. Now, I've worked in service a lot, and so I have a very service-orientated view of the world. I still bring that to the job that I do today, the company that I run with my business partner. Service. But one of the things I know is it also exists in men with other men, which is like, we'll get together as a group, and there's like, say there's 10 of us, and like 4 of us like whiskey, and we're like, why don't the other lads like whiskey? Because they just don't. Because you know what? They're just not into it. I'm not going to invest my time in trying to convince them to like whiskey. If they prefer fancy IPAs or wine, that's up to them. Like, you know, you like what you like. You know, do you know what I mean? I don't understand why it's such a big deal to people whether some men or some women don't like whiskey. It's up to them.
I don't think it is a big deal. I think it's been made a big deal.
Right.
I don't follow the gin industry. I don't follow the wine industry. Every industry has issues around sexism. Every industry. Right. The post office has issues. You know, the libraries have. Everywhere you will experience some form of sexism. Just maybe on different scales, but it is there. And the common thing between all of these is training and communication to be able to resolve these issues. Now, I saw someone on social media when I was still on Twitter who had been into a well-known membership-based whiskey bar, and their experience wasn't the best. They said on Twitter, X, that they'd experienced not the greatest time because there was a large group of lads and they were getting all the bar person's attention, and they had a really bad time at the bar. My response to that was, did you speak to the bar staff? Did you contact the company? Or did you just come straight to social media to say how bad it was? And they hadn't given the company any opportunity to respond and to address it. Whereas actually, if you had spoken to the bar staff, they may have addressed it there and then for you, right? So, you know, we've got to get away from this automatic, I don't like the word, victim placing, that you are automatically a victim.
Yeah.
Throughout my life, I've known all kinds of characters, both men and women, who both love and detest whiskey, right? And it's just that it's always less of a surprise if a man is into whiskey than if a lady is really into whiskey. And that's because overall, it's less usual for a lady to be really a whiskey aficionado. They totally exist and they're out there and we love them, but they are less likely.
And there are far more than people realise. I mean, I think when you start looking around the bigger shows especially, TWE, the amount of women behind stands, it's a huge number. And they are knowledgeable about whiskey women.
Well, absolutely.
I always say to people, you know, like, do I look like I've been hired just to pour because I'm pretty? No. It absolutely is not, right? Because I am not pretty. I am not that. I'm not that person. I was not hired to do this job because no, I'm not. I know my levels, but you know, it really is a case of like really. But I do actually. You say about making time for it. That is something I will always specifically make time for because it's again putting the onus back on that person. You think you can walk up to somebody, including me, and ask that question? No, I'm going to give you my time. Let's have some education.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you would educate that person.
But also just allowing other people to know that that's okay. Other brand ambassadors to know that it's okay to actually do that should be encouraged.
I have poured a Highland Park 12-year-old old bottling from the 1990s, 43%.
Wow.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Don't worry, it's not making the edit.
It's outrageous, man.
Look at his face.
Poor little
cut that
face.
out. I'll message him and tell him you cut it out.
But also, just to finish off my little mini rant, I refer to things like health and safety. When we're setting up shows, when we're setting up bars, actually how we set up tables is really important for people's health and safety behind a stand. Yep. Like, I've worked in spaces where it's so enclosed that should there be a problem, and here is a statistic, men are generally taller than women on average. So if you have got a table that's surrounded by lots and lots of men and you're quite a short woman, that's quite intimidating. You need to have space to be able to remove yourself from that. And we need to be setting up shows to allow that to happen. And also, again, a confidence building, just allow people to go, do you know what, guys, can you just push back a bit?
Yeah.
I'm just feeling a little bit like you're just too in my face. Just move back.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say that. It's not offensive. It's just asking people to move back and give you space. Like, get your backpack off. Do you know
Get your rucksack off.
From another health and safety. But exactly. Then this comes down to the companies putting on the shows, the companies empowering their ambassadors and their staff to be able to just have a little bit more power behind them doing their jobs. Yeah. You shouldn't be fearful of being turned away from doing a job because you've stood up to somebody. That's just wrong.
Do you think that's something people are really worried about then?
I do, yeah.
Right, okay.
I do. It's a couple of places that I've worked recently, and I've seen and I've spoken to staff. They really protect and support their staff in having those conversations. And they will step in if necessary, which I think is fantastic because it then means the staff don't have to take that kind of conversation from somebody. They know that they're going to have their company's got their back, basically. And that's what people need to have, is a company having their back, a show event organizer having their back when there's they're not always issues and everything's in a particular context. What for me may be slightly unacceptable, but I'm not going to call the police on you, may be a completely different context for somebody else that could ruin somebody's career.
Right.
We just have to be a little bit more pragmatic and take ownership of ourselves. And that's for men and women, not just on the female side.
Yeah.
Rant over.
End rant.
Vokins has spoken. Chapter 316. I like it. It's good. Yeah. No, I think you're 100% massively.
Yeah, I think Claire's saying that more support and help for people on stand and more backing on the way to handle situations is what's needed.
I can guarantee that very few brand ambassadors have been taught communications training. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean about how we communicate about the whiskey, but how we learn to assess people, how to talk to people, how to have our, body language, intonation, all that kind of stuff. It's really, really important. And it can help you do your job and it can help you manage yourself and manage situations. Yeah. If you haven't had that training, you'll never understand how useful those tools can be.
I mean, understanding body language is fundamentally important to all people.
If you've got to a point where you're having issues with someone and it's verbal, you've already missed so many keys. Yeah. You've missed all the opportunity 100%. To completely dissect.
Yeah, and also to diffuse that situation. To diffuse it with your own body language as well, if possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Or just fucking smash
open palms.
Yeah. I was just thinking about your whiskey show. You'd be like going around going, it's causing trouble. It's causing trouble. They're causing trouble. Let me chuck them out.
But that's basically what I do at some of the whiskey show that you worked at, Duncan.
You were like a bouncer. You were like swanning through the crowd and making eye contact.
Making sure you guys are okay.
Problems, everyone okay? Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a couple of people that were pointed out to me and they were dealt with gently and not in a way that would embarrass that person or create an issue within the event. But that comes down to training. It's SIA training is really, really useful.
There you go.
That's all I'm going to say.
Sounds like a pitch to me. Sign up to Claire Vokins.
Vokins, whiskysecurity.com.
Voldemort security / training.
Voldemort.
No. No. I don't know if I can go for that, Vokinator.
Honestly, Harry Potter. It's even got the potting reference in it, hasn't it? Yeah. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
smash you.
All right, Claire. Have you got every last rant off your chest now? How are we doing there?
Oh, that's never going to happen. But for today,
Women in whiskey, influencers. Job done?
Done.
I think for now.
Just for everyone else who's listening to this, Claire's just having a rummage around her brain just to see if there's anything else at all.
I mean, language within whiskey, I think, is interesting.
She's got the scroll out now, and we're already at the top.
Where are we? I think language within whiskey is interesting. That's something that could be looked at, but that's down to all of us. Words like journey or entry or beginner they all sort of
Beginner should be
instigate
gone.
a hierarchy.
Yeah.
No, exactly. There's no such, and this is why I don't like the word journey, because everything instigates. You're at a start of something that therefore has to finish. You're
Yeah,
moving
but with
from
journey,
A to Z.
but I never talk about.
I think experience.
I never talk about whiskey
Experience.
journey, so I'll play devil's advocate in the sense.
It's a cliche word.
I'll play devil's advocate in the sense that I never
for it.
use the word journey to talk about myself, but I understand it. People want to explain,
Yeah.
and some people would argue that journeys never really finish, right?
I was going to say there has to be an end point if you take
Well,
a journey.
For
Realistically.
some people, there never is. People who are a bit more expansive of mind think that it goes on forever. Like a journey can be.
That's why I like the word adventure or experience. But I think worse than that, I do think the words entry, beginner, like you can't drink this whiskey unless you've drunk all of these, all that kind of stuff.
People don't do that anymore.
That hierarchy.
Because of social media, people just go, they bypass all the supermarket stuff, all the 43, all the
They
40% stuff,
can,
and they go
but
straight onto car
people
strength
still
stuff.
use that. But people are still using that language.
No one's
People
bypassing
still use
stuff.
that language.
They do. They bypass stuff.
I guarantee because they'll start on supermarkets and things like that, and then they'll start looking up and researching stuff, and then finding everything else. You might get one or two, but that's not the general thing. Googling, research, finding the Honest to a Malt podcast, following our words, putting us on a pedestal. We get egos and free shit.
Eagle Rare
And then
10
we never say
is
if it's
ordered.
gifted.
What do you mean you get egos, guys? Mike, your ego walks into a room before you do. Come on now.
Well, also, Claire, that would be your. If you could change one thing about the world of whiskey, that can be yours. You can say you change whiskey language.
Yeah.
And you get rid of certain words, including beginner, journey, and what was the other one you said?
Entry.
Yeah.
Entry. Yeah. I mean, in other places, entry is a great word, but no. There's no entry level.
Yeah.
It's not a bloody. It's not a game, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's not collect 10 coins and go to the next
If
level.
learning about whiskey was like Double Dragon, I would be even more into it than I am now. Like, or Mario Kart or something. Then
could you imagine Duolingo whiskey? Oh my word! Oh, actually, that could be good.
What's Duolingo whiskey?
Duolingo. It's in like learning whiskey.
So Duolingo is like the language learning thing.
Oh, okay.
And it basically takes you through a pathway and you get all these little stars and treats.
Okay,
and
you get rewards.
basically, it's just feeding your dopamine reward system. So if we had Duolingo for whiskey...
If they wanted to sell me more...
that would be
Claire, I'll tell you how they could sell me more
cool.
whiskey. If they gave away chocolate with whiskey or peanuts with whiskey. So
no,
say I'm
cheese,
online and
cheese.
I was like, am I going to order that new Glasgow distillery? And they're like, there's a free chocolate. Which reminds me, Mike, what was that chocolate that Annabelle said she loved?
It is Tony's.
Tony's. I tried Tony's for the first
Tony's
time on
Chocolonely.
the weekend.
Which ones do you
And it
have?
had everything in it. Just tons of bits in it.
Do you like how it's
Still good.
all not in squares and it's all just fucking complete
Wasn't in
chaos?
squares yet. Yeah.
You're like,
I really
I'm just
liked
going
it.
to snap a bit off, and you're like, please be a big bit, please be a big bit. Boom, bang.
Oh, massive bit. Yeah. Yeah. So I tried it for the first time, as far as I remember,
So
on the
good.
weekend. Tony's Chocolonely. Seemingly the works with just tons of bits in it.
Yeah.
And, loads of small bits, right? So they
Is it
didn't,
the caramel one or something?
didn't have caramel in it as far as I could tell. Yeah.
They
I'd
got
already had a few
so
drinks
many
at that point, so-
varieties.
I'd rather have cheese with whiskey.
Yeah, me too.
I like whiskey and cheese.
Did you have a
I'd rather
go-to
have cheese with
cheese?
whiskey.
Yeah, the non-cow stuff.
Okay, well, like
So
sheep,
basically, any
Vegan
cheese,
cheese.
that's made
Vegan
out
cheese
of...
is
sheep
cheese.
cheese.
No,
Goat.
but you get goat's cheese.
Goat's cheese.
Sheep's
Sheep's
cheese.
cheese.
I mean,
Chicken
monkey
cheese.
Any basically no, because they don't have
And
any.
Can you milk a
cheese.
cat, Greg?
Basically, that.
I feel like if you can't listen, you have to milk a lot of ants to make the cheese that I like. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, we're going to episode 69 again, aren't we?
Not with ants. really.
No, but cheese and whiskey, a nice nutty hard
Nice.
cheese, amazing. Yeah,
You could have had cheese in the island. Just saying.
I could have done, but no, I like. I don't always have cheese as a dessert. For dessert, I'm going to have my affogato.
I feel like with Pudding Island Drams, you really need to go for the most calorific thing possible because it's the only food being offered.
And
That's
whiskey.
often
No,
overlooked.
Between the
caffeine's
two.
enough. Caffeine's enough.
Yeah.
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 Just black coffee for 30 days. Some sort of extreme diet.
How far
Right,
are you?
Claire, if rants are over, then I think we should thank you very much for coming on
Thank
the
you.
podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It's actually been really good fun.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting it to be so.
Oh, that's
fun.
nice. So it was actually enjoyable
Fab.
and far more technical than you
My
expected,
days,
and a bit more
listens to
hard
the
work.
pod, says it's
I know,
entertaining,
far
comes on,
more
says doesn't expect it to
technical.
be fun. We don't edit that much.
You might need to. Far more technical
Good.
than I ever expect these things to be. So
Like
yeah,
a 720
impressive, boys.
triple flip in skateboarding or something.
From a 50-year-old man.
Yeah, from a 50-year-old man.
Simone Biles
In a cap.
It's a Simone Biles of podcasts.
No, I learned a lot more about you today, so thanks very much for coming on. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
some
Thank
some
you.
deets about your journey.
If people want to find you, obviously we've mentioned your website.
Sorry,
Instagram. What's
Yeah.
your Instagram handle? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's basically my personal stroke, slightly whiskey based, is I think it's Claire _Vokins, but there's not many of us, so you'll find me. And my work one is C Vokins Horticulture.
Can I just be the first person to say that I feel like you're 1 in 21 million?
Aw, thanks.
You're welcome.
Because I actually am. Yeah. I'll send you the link for that. It's
Mike
so
and I,
interesting.
we were WhatsApping each other saying we're going to change our names by default to Claire Vokins.
Yeah.
No,
Vokins.
that's not. No. My ego.
Mike actually-
I always knew I was 1 in
Mike
a million, but to
replied
be
and
1 in
said,
21
Sack
million.
that off. Let's just pay homeless people. We'll go round. We'll change their lives, and all they have to do is change their name to Claire Vokins.
Like a modern era
we
bum
get like
fight.
20
Instead of
of them.
fighting, can we change
There'd
it
be
by
like loads
default
of them.
for
Yeah.
Grace?
Yes, that'd be
All
amazing.
in South London.
Yes, South East London. I think you'll
South
find.
East London.
But yeah, South East.
Yes. Well, once again, thank you for coming
That'll be
on.
fun.
Really enjoyable.
Thank you.
If you want to follow us, we are on @honesttoamalt.com, @honesttoamalt on all the social medias. And you'll find Duncan on Whiskey Tip, myself on Whiskey Wings. We will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening. Bye, bye, bye.
Like a jungle, so call the police. Following the herd, don't forgive. On Instagram, loving the DMs. Go Polaroid, bottles and treetops. Influencer, who says when you poor folks who like rants, about folks who do rants like their folks who do folks like their rants. Always should be someone you really judge. Folks who like rants about folks who do rants like their folks who do folks like their rants. Always should be someone you really judge.